Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Loony, wild times in Canadian federal politics indeed. We finally have the federal election that we've been wanting so much. We've got this loser fake prime minister, Mark Carney, never elected as an MP, never voted on by Canadians. It's a joke, but he's being exposed here by the Conservative whip, Andrew Scheer. He's an MP from Regina. He's very sharp, he's funny, and exposing Mark Carney for what he really is. We've got some other expositions on here as well. We've got Michelle Ferrari, we have Michael Barrett, and Mark Carney actually exposing himself. He's a loser and a clown. Anyways, let's get into this video. We're going to kick it off with Andrew Scheer, one of my favorites here to watch on YouTube for sure. Check out his channel. Anyways, let's get into Andrew Scheer exposing Mark Carney.
Did you know that cigarette companies used to have doctors endorse their products?
Once again, the brand named most was Camel. According to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Advertising from the 50s and earlier is fascinating. They told entire stories in their ad copy, and they invented all kinds of terms that nobody had heard of. I mean, T-zones? When was the last time a doctor asked how your T-zones were? Whenever a salesperson tries to sell you something, they're always going to use some careful language to exaggerate the benefits of something and maybe downplay the negatives. But people who know that what they're selling is absolute crap, they rely on the theatrics, the razzle-dazzle, the smoke and mirrors, the deceptive language that completely tries to fool you into believing something that just isn't true.
There's the truth and the truth.
It's awfully small.
I'd say it's awfully cozy.
That's dilapidated.
Rustic.
That house is on fire.
Motivated seller.
But there is a point where it goes past aggressive marketing and becomes a con, a fraud, a grift, a scam. That's what Mark Carney's doing with his carbon tax con.
Will axe the consumer carbon tax, make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens?
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd?
The con that Mark Carney's trying to pull off is he's trying to convince you that something has changed because they've swapped out leaders, they've changed the letterhead, and somehow the Liberal government is going to be something that it simply is not. First of all, Mark Carney has fought in favor of the carbon tax for his whole adult life. He's written books about it. He's traveled around the world trying to convince other governments to adopt the carbon tax. The only time he's ever criticized Justin Trudeau was when he said that the carbon tax was set far too low.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
Even as he was taking over the Liberal Party, he told Canadians that he wasn't actually going to get rid of it. He was going to hide it, call it a shadow carbon tax, and hope that you didn't notice it. This is actually the carbon tax. This is what the carbon tax actually is. It's a complex piece of legislation that imposes a carbon tax system on provinces that don't have their own backstop. It was passed by Parliament. The only way to get rid of it is to repeal it. But did Mark Carney recall Parliament and actually take the carbon tax off the books? No, he didn't. Now here's where the marketing scam comes in, because he knows that he's got a massive record of loving the carbon tax and defending and promoting it. So how does he fool Canadians into thinking that somehow he no longer does? Well, out comes the theatrics, the performative art, the razzle-dazzle, and the smoke and mirrors. He starts off with a phony order in council. He had a performance in his office and tries to do his best Donald Trump impression by signing an executive order. This is just a phony marketing tactic. That piece of paper means nothing. It has no legal effect. The carbon tax law still exists. The way the regulations are changed is actually through the Governor General, but that wouldn't make for a good photo op, so that's not what they did. The carbon tax law is still on the books. It's actually still up on the Liberal Party website. And Liberal cabinet ministers are still saying that they believe in the carbon tax and they don't expect anything to change under Mark Carney.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of fundamental changes. I'm still a believer in the consumer carbon price.
Deep down, the Liberals still believe in this. Here's how I know. They haven't gotten rid of it. The carbon tax still today is applied to all kinds of things in Canada that you end up paying for. It still applies to steel, aluminum, manufacturing, all kinds of industries where those costs get passed on to consumers, or worse yet, Canadian businesses move their investments out of our country. The Liberal play is to try to trick Canadians into believing that they've gotten rid of half of it. Here's the thing. When everybody finally realized that smoking was bad for you, the advice didn't change to smoke half as much. Doctors didn't come out and say, only smoke the first half of the cigarette. When the world realized that asbestos causes cancer, the building codes didn't change to force builders to use half as much asbestos. It was banned altogether. The carbon tax is bad. It punishes consumers, but it also punishes workers. It threatens jobs. It drives up the costs of everything you buy. Mark Carney has been caught out in multiple lies just in the last few weeks alone.
Biggest supplier of fertilizer, biggest supplier of aluminum, biggest supplier of semiconductors. We supply almost all their semiconductors. That whole, everybody in the White House is a tech bro except for Trump.
He has no credibility. This isn't just aggressive marketing and embellishing features. This is a massive con. Mark Carney started this when he launched his leadership campaign. He realized that he had to fool Canadians into believing that he no longer believed in the carbon tax, even though he spent his entire life fighting for it. There is only one way to kill the carbon tax once and for all. Pierre Poilievre and the common sense Conservatives will not just make sure that the consumer carbon tax is gone forever, but we will also unburden our manufacturers, our steel workers, our auto workers, our aluminum workers by taking the industrial carbon tax off too. That's the way we make our economy stronger so that we can fight back against the unfair threats from the US. That's how we put Canada first. That's how we bring home a better Canada for all of us.
So yeah, gang, what do you think about Andrew Scheer? I find him very funny. Leave it in the comments what you think of Andrew Scheer. We're going to swing now to Michael Barrett. He's a badger, exposing Mark Carney for what he is. We're going to get to Mark Carney exposing himself. Sounds very Jeff Epstein. Whatever. Let's take a look at Mike Barrett, and then we'll get into Mark Carney, and we'll look at Michelle Frary too. Maybe twice.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Mark Carney has finally admitted what common sense Conservatives have been saying for months. He finally told Canadians that yes, due to his personal assets and holdings, he's conflicted from making decisions on anything related to Brookfield Asset Management. But what does that mean? Does this mean the Prime Minister can't make decisions on countless important issues, including nuclear energy, carbon capture and storage, wind turbines, natural gas, heat pumps, battery energy storage, green hydrogen, pipelines, the industrial carbon tax, and countless other sectors? How can a Prime Minister govern the country if he stands to profit on so many important issues? Are his ministers going to stand up to him and make decisions that potentially hurt Brookfield?
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you saw.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
We've been calling for Mark Carney to release his assets for weeks, but he outright refuses. He doesn't think you deserve to know how many millions he has in stock options, shares, and future bonus payments from Brookfield.
Can you tell us what your compensation over the past 3 years has been and how
If he has nothing to hide, he would have released them already. Mark Carney needs to immediately release his financial interests and conflicts so Canadians can see for themselves what he's hiding.
All right, gang, so I can't lie. I'm a big Mike Barrett fan. Like, MP from Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, he's a stud in my mind. Anyways, we're going to get into Mark Carney exposing himself. This guy is a goof. God bless Australia News. Sometimes they tell a good story. Let's take a peek. Mark Carney revealing himself to Canadians. This guy is a fake and phony. Let's take a peek.
The incompetent Justin Trudeau is out, but his replacement doesn't seem to be much better for the people of Canada. Mark Carney is not off to the best start, committing this Kamala Harris-worthy word salad at a recent press conference.
Certainly the President of the United States has many responsibilities, and there are many issues. I can think of many geostrategic issues that the President is helping to lead on, and you can think of events most recently in with respect to the Houthis and all the way through to trade and other aspects. So there's a wide range of issues to be discussed when we do connect. With respect to trade, I look forward to, at the appropriate time, having a discussion as two sovereign nations that is comprehensive, not targeted at one issue.
And his early performance isn't intimidating US President Donald Trump in the slightest, who says he would rather deal with Carney because it's easier than dealing with his conservative opponent.
Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal.
But Carney isn't being so nice about Trump, blaming him for Canada's economic crisis instead of taking responsibility for his own taxpayer-funded blowout.
You recently...
Sorry about the microphone.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a pretty tall guy. You have not been elected in a federal election yet, and you recently flew to Europe on government wide-body jet at the expense of at least $500,000. So the question I have for you today, and maybe I'll say this before I ask the question, these people around you all paid for that flight, and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. Look, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to allude to the question that was asked previously by Mr. Staples from the Journal, and the situation that we're in as a country, which is we are in an economic crisis that's brought on, sorry, I'm going to answer the question, brought on by the tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges...
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor.
I think you would find...
These people did not create that problem.
I certainly... hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. The U.S. government has decided to put tariffs on all of its closest allies. All of its closest allies. I wouldn't for a moment suggest that anyone in Canada is the cause of this. What our responsibility is to take action to react to a different world that we're in. And part of the way we do that is we build out new partnerships, new opportunities, including opportunities. And I'm going to give you a specific one, and then I don't know if you have one more follow-up, but I'll give you a specific example. It goes to my previous answer. Something I also discussed with the Premier this morning, which is Canada has many advantages, and one of them is in critical metals and minerals. One of the issues is how are we going to develop the trade routes and the trade corridors rapidly in order to export those critical metals and minerals? And who are our clients for that? Who are our customers? Do we only have one customer to the south of us, the customer that's attacking us, that doesn't respect the trade agreements that they signed? Or should we develop new customers in Europe? What's required, if I may, what's required for those new customers is to build out trade corridors and infrastructure, including what I referenced in my previous answer and discussed with the Premier, is the potential to go north, go to new deepwater ports. Churchill is an example, Gray's Point in Nunavut as another. And that creates a whole new set of opportunities for Albertans as a whole, for people across the country, for these hardworking people around me and those like them in the trades. And that's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
This commentator slammed the PM, saying, nuclear mic drop moment. PM Mark Carney just blamed the US for Canada's economic crisis, denying that anyone in Canada is responsible. A reporter calls him out and he doubles down. It's Orange Man bad. This is Carney's biggest lie yet. And opposition leader Pierre Poilievre is proving to be a headache for both Trump and Carney, slamming them both in this scathing attack.
It's clear that President Trump wants the Liberals in power because they will keep this country weak. After 10 years in power, the Liberals have given us the weakest economy in the G7. They've doubled our housing costs, driven $500 billion to the south, all while Mark Carney was economic advisor to Trudeau, and while Mr. Carney moved his corporate headquarters to New York. Do you know that he moved his headquarters to Trump's hometown 6 days after Trump first threatened to tariff Canada? While these people here were worried about losing their jobs, Mark Carney was busy moving jobs to Trump's hometown. That's exactly the kind of weak, compromised, conflicted leadership that Donald Trump wants, and it's why he endorsed Mark Carney yesterday. What Canadians need, though, is a leader who's tough and firm and stands by his convictions. A leader who will make Canada strong, self-reliant, and stand on its own 2 feet. A leader who will put Canada first.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, my name is Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We still have a piece with MP Michelle Ferreri coming up. She is a spark plug. She's a firecracker, one to watch for certain. She's going to be very high, I'm guessing, in the Poilievre cabinet when that comes around. And it will come around. We just need this election to take place. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Come and check out one of the live shows. We're having a blast here. All about Canadian federal politics. Try to take it light. Trying to have some fun. Like, we're aware, but we can still have some fun, right? That's it. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you next time. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe, comment, get notified, all those things. Come check out a live show. Canadian politics is only going to heat up. That's it. We'll catch you in the next video. Later, gang.
This is the most consequential time in history of politics. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to present e-petition 4701, the highest signed e-petition in Canadian history with 387,487. Go outside. Go outside and talk to somebody.
So when you bring your wheat in, for example, and you dry the wheat, boom, carbon tax. And then when we truck the wheat to the elevator, carbon tax. And then when the elevator trucks it to the mill, there's another carbon tax to make the flour. And then when it goes to make the bread, there's another carbon tax. And the freaking loaf of bread has to have wrapped in something. There's carbon tax on that. Then it has to get to the warehouse, another carbon tax on the fuel, for example, and on until it gets to your grocery store shelf, which is put a loaf of bread up by, I forget how many percent it's gone up in the last.
75% is one of the readings I heard in 2022.
Incredible. That's an incredible number.
It's wild when
Yeah.
people are trying to just feed their families.
Yes. And everything we do has carbon tax on it.
Food is so unaffordable that 50 active serving military families from CFB Gagetown are using the Oromocto Food Bank. This is outrageous, it is shocking, and it is unacceptable. So, for the on behalf of all the Canadians and 70% of the premiers in this country, will they spike the hike, fix the tax, and make food more affordable? 93-year-old Liz Diachin, who will have to pay $40,000 in capital gains because she's trying to gift her grandson and daughter land, has a message for the Prime Minister. She's not rich. She doesn't have $40,000 extra dollars. She's trying to help her family, and she would like to know which bank would lend a 93-year-old $40,000.
I think it's important to recognize that, with the $6 billion, the single largest budget item that we put forward in this budget is going to significantly make
I'm going to go back
close
to the time
the poverty
here.
gap.
I think what we've seen here today is the minister answer every single question with the same response. The homeless rate under this prime minister is astronomical because the highest record usage of food bank is happening under this prime minister. So to come in here and to tell people you've done this first ever announcement, it's wonderful. You might as well go be the Maple Leafs coach and tell them that effort was great. Okay, outside of the House of Commons just spoke on natural health products. Blaine Calkins put forward a private member's bill to ensure that this industry stays alive so that you can access your vitamins, your minerals, your probiotics. Crazy town that we actually have a government, the Liberals, who want to take this away from Canadians. More government overreach. I have Jules Gorham here. Jules, you were in the gallery. You watched this. Kevin Lamoureux, a Liberal MP, said it was garbage, but we were saying that this will decimate the industry and Canadians' access to natural health products. What did you think?
I thought it was shocking to hear those words being used when we know very well that on these changing regulations and the legislation that was changed through the annex in the budget last year, that no gender-based analysis was done. So it's not garbage that women in this sector are going to lose their businesses and lose everything that they've worked for. It's not garbage. It's important, and this needs to go back to committee.
I will remind the member opposite that the Charter of Rights is not in place to protect the government from the people. It is in place to protect the people from the government. And you have told everybody here that passports have gotten completely corrected. And I just want for the record to say that you had promised digital online renewals would be in place by the fall of 2024, which still has not happened. We do not have a revenue problem in this country. We have a prime minister with a spending and corruption problem in this country. You know the Liberals are losing real bad when they bring up abortion. We will never bring this up. And to that member opposite, if you're going to get up and talk about my reproductive rights, you better put a woman up and stop mansplaining to me. Mr. On October 24th, there were a plethora of childcare operators who came to Ottawa from British Columbia, Ontario, and Alberta on their own dime, simply to be heard, but you did not meet with them. Why?
Thank you for the question. I meet regularly with childcare operators across this country. On that particular day, I can't tell you exactly what I was doing. I believe my staff perhaps met with them. I think it was the day before.
So that's just false. The organizer of that group wrote to you saying that your staff absolutely did go outside, but instead to take photos, these are her words, within minutes of our meeting start time for the apparent purpose of further mocking, discrediting, and shaming those present on social media by questioning the group size.
House of Commons, every single day, you hear the Prime Minister and the Minister for Families, Children and Social Development tell you that the best thing they've ever done is $10 a day childcare. Well, I've got a lot of people here behind me and parents and operators who would tell you otherwise. Ladies, what do you have to say to the government? Yeah.
You know what that school food program is? $2.50 a kid. And you know what? There's no food in it. It's purely bureaucracy. If you don't fix this carbon tax and quit driving up the cost of food, you will never be able to feed families, do the right thing, make sense, and stop doing this nonsense marketing schemes that won't feed anyone.
This is absurd. Paul Bernardo, one of the world's worst monsters, murdered, raped women, Leslie Mahaffey, Kristen French. His parole hearing is coming up. And the victims' families, the mothers of these young girls that were murdered and raped and tortured, were denied the ability to go to the parole hearing. This isn't a privilege. This is a constitutional right. And they were denied the ability to attend the parole board hearing. Why? Because the parole board says it was a security issue. Oh, all of a sudden it's not a security issue because you've reversed the decision. Now you're saying they can attend after we publicly shamed you, after we called you out on it, after we said this is ridiculous, after their lawyer wrote to you and said this is absolutely absurd. Oh, but now they can attend.
Today, Tara Lynn McClintock lives in a cozy townhouse with free access to the mother-child program. Yes, you heard that correctly. A child killer has free access to children in prison. In what universe is this okay? I'm asking every member in this House, please vote in support of these amendments. Let's strengthen our justice system and protect victims from domestic violence. Thank you.
I came out today to support every victim, being a victim myself of domestic violence.
Yeah. Any messages you want to say to somebody out there that's maybe in a relationship they think is a healthy, because they might not know any different. Anything you want to say?
I want to say stand strong. You're not alone, and reach out for help. There is help out there.
And what laws would you like to see done differently?
Harsher penalties.
Jail, not bail, eh?
Jail, not bail, and common sense laws.
Will you acknowledge Haley Schultz's letter in the murder of her son, Bradley Pogue, that I sent to you on December 5th? Will you read this if I walk it over to you, and will you acknowledge her?
There are certain things that confine my role. That matter is actually...
That matter is... Can you?
On what date did the Minister of Justice publicly say that it is empirically unlikely that Canada is less safe? These are his words. On what day did he say it?
Minister?
Being Canadians safe is a priority for mine. That's why we're addressing things like gun violence. I was a bit shocked during the supplementary estimates vote when that member voted against $83 million of funding, which would have helped with guns and gangs.
The RO member?
Justice for Canada, folks. And he actually said that, and that was on July 31st, 2023.
Walking in what many people would know as like Byward Market in Ottawa, Rideau Street. And I've just walked by a gentleman who was unconscious and OD on the street. This opioid crisis is very, very real. And there's literally people dying on the street.
There is only one person responsible for keeping that Prime Minister in power, despite the genuine suffering and misery Canadians are having. And that is the leader of the NDP. It was just a week ago the Prime Minister stood on stage to tell women what a great feminist he is. And then today, we learned the Prime Minister told the first ever female finance minister to do as he says or lose her role. She resigned. Wow. Even the finance minister doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister.
Don't give up hope. Pressure builds diamonds. 2025, here we come. We're going to bring it home, and Pierre Poilievre is going to be the Prime Minister. And don't for 1 second let Jagmeet Singh try to trick you into telling you they just need another leader, that Justin Trudeau just needs to resign, because every single Liberal MP and every single NDP member let all of this chaos and all of this suffering happen. And they are responsible for how we got here because they let it happen. And we will fight them, and we will stand with you for you. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
That's it, gang. Catch next video. Thank you for watching this one. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. Come and get informed about Canadian federal politics from a guy standing in the grocery store lineup. That's all I am. I pay attention, though. That's it, gang. Thank you for watching the video. Catch you in the next one. Like, subscribe, share. Get notified. Please leave a comment. Later, gang.
Squiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
Welcome to the Great White North, aka Canadian Corner. How's it going, eh? Bob McKenzie, my brother Doug.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room. Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.